It was late at night when James walked through the dusty streets of Eridra, a strange alien planet far from Earth. The twin moons hung low in the dark sky, casting a soft blue light over the city. He pulled his coat tight against the cold wind. In his hand, carried a small device, a survival tool from Earthbud, strapped it around his waist because he didn't have a bag. James had only arrived on Eridra 3 days ago. He didn't know much about the customs of this world. All he knew was that he had rented a small room from Madame Yura, the tall and serious alien landlady who lived at the corner of the market square. She was different from humans. Her skin was green and smooth, her arms long and thin, her large red eyes always watched carefully. When James reached the front door, he quietly unlocked it and stepped inside. But before he could close the door, Madame Yura appeared from the shadows. Her eyes widened the moment she saw the device strapped around his waist. "What is that?" she gasped, her voice trembling. James looked down. "Oh, this. It's just a tool, a water purifier. It helps clean dirty water," he explained, smiling politely. But Madame Yura did not look calm. Instead, she took a step back and raised all 4 of her arms. Her eyes flashed with shock, then fear. Suddenly, she shouted so loudly that her voice echoed down the street. "Human, why do you have a mini Shai Hulud between your legs?" James froze. He didn't understand her words at first. "Shai Hulud? What's that?" he asked. Her neighbors, hearing the shout, quickly gathered outside. Alien heads peeked from windows and doors. A crowd began to form in front of the house. "Madame?" Yura pointed at James's device and repeated louder, "Why is this human carrying a sacred symbol? That is the image of the holy Shai Hulud." The crowd gasped. Aliens of all shapes and colors stared at James with wide eyes. Some whispered. Others looked afraid. James felt confused. "This is not holy. It's just human equipment," he said, but no one listened. A young alien boy whispered to his mother, "Only warriors may carry that sign." A shopkeeper murmured, "This human, he must be important, or dangerous." Soon the whispering grew louder. Few angry voices rose above the crowd. "Why is he allowed here? He must leave at once. Call the elders." James felt trapped. He had no idea that his small water purifier looked exactly like an important holy symbol on this planet. Madame Yura's face turned serious. She stepped closer and said in a low voice, "You have no idea what you have done, human. The Shai Hulud is a symbol of the sand gods. Only those blessed by the elders may wear it. The last time an outsider carried that mark, there was war." James's heart pounded. He looked around. All eyes were on him. Suddenly a piece of paper was thrown at his feet. He picked it up and read, "Leave before moonrise, or face the judgment of the elders." The warning sent a chill down his spine. But where could he go? He had nowhere else on this planet. He was a visitor, a stranger. All he had was that small room in Madame Yura's home, and the water purifier that now made him a target. James tried again to explain, "Please, it's just a tool. On Earth, many people carry it. It helps turn dirty water into clean water." But Madame Yura shook her head. "The elders will not care what it is. The elders believe in signs, and you human. Now carry a dangerous sign." The neighbors backed away slowly, whispering to each other. A heavy silence fell over the street. James felt a mix of fear and frustration. How could something so simple, something he used to survive, bring so much trouble? Then Madame Yura spoke again, softer this time. "Stay in your room tonight. Do not go out. Do not show that device again. Tomorrow, the elders will come. I cannot protect you from their judgment." Her words felt final. James nodded slowly and stepped inside, closing the door behind him. But even inside, he could hear the whispers outside. The aliens spoke of ancient stories, of outsiders who carried forbidden symbols, of terrible punishments. James sat down on the edge of his small bed. He stared at the device lying beside him. "What have I walked into?" he whispered to himself. Outside, the cold wind blew. The alien city was quiet. But James could feel that trouble was coming. The next morning came slowly. The twin moons were gone, and pale orange sunlight lit up the streets of Eridra. But James didn't sleep much. He sat in his small room, listening to every sound outside. At dawn, the market below was unusually quiet. No vendors, no customers. Even Madame Yura didn't appear. The silence felt heavy, as if the whole city was waiting for something. Then, without warning, a deep drumbeat echoed through the streets. Boom, 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 slow and steady. James looked out the small window and froze down the road. 3 tall alien figures were walking toward the house. They wore dark robes, their faces hidden by silver masks. Their hands glowed faintly with strange energy. The crowd parted silently as they passed. Everyone bowed their heads. These were the elders. Madame Yura stepped outside to greet them, but even she did not speak. She simply lowered her head and moved aside. One of the elders raised a hand. Pointing toward James's door, "He carries the sign," the elder said, his voice deep and cold. James felt his heart race. He didn't know what to do. Should he run? Should he hide? No. It was too late. The door opened slowly, but James didn't open it himself. The elder had moved his fingers slightly. The door responded as if pushed by invisible hands. All 3 elders stepped inside. The air grew cold. A strange smell filled the room like old stone and dry sand. The leader of the elders spoke first. "You are the human called James." James nodded. "Yes, I am James." The elder pointed at the device still sitting on the table. "Why do you carry the shape of the sacred Shai Hulud?" James took a deep breath. He picked up the device carefully and said, "This is just human technology. A water purifier. It is not a holy thing. It helps me clean water so I can drink it." The elder tilted his head slightly. He looked at the device, then at James. "Do you know what it means to us? The Shai Hulud is not just a shape. It is the spirit of the desert itself. Only warriors of the sand gods may carry this mark." James lowered his voice. "I didn't know. Sorry." But the elder's eyes glowed brighter. "Sorry's not enough, human. The desert sees all." The second elder, whose robe was darker than the others, stepped forward. "If you wish to stay on Eridra, you must prove your worth. The people fear. You, the people whisper that you are a sign of trouble." James's hands trembled. He didn't want to cause fear, just wanted to survive on this strange world. But now, everything had changed. The third elder, shorter than the others, but with a deep scar across his mask, spoke softly. "We will not punish you, yet but you must face the desert's judgment." James frowned. "Desert's judgment?" The elder nodded. "Tonight after sundown, you will go alone into the burning dunes. You will take only your device with you. If you survive the night, the desert will have accepted you. If you do not, the desert has spoken." The words felt heavy in the air. Madame Yura, standing behind them, whispered, "No one has survived a night in the burning dunes. Not even our strongest warriors." James's throat felt dry. Fear crept into his heart, but what choice did he have? The elders turned and left without another word. The drumbeats resumed as they walked away. Fading slowly into the distance, Madame Yura stepped inside and closed the door gently. She looked at James with sad eyes. "Prepare yourself, human. Tonight will decide your fate." James nodded slowly, staring at the small device in his hand. To him it was simple technology. But on this world it was the key to everything. He knew one thing for sure tonight. The desert itself would test him, and he would have to survive. Evening fell fast on Eridra. The twin moons rose again, casting silver light over the endless dunes of sand outside the city. The wind carried dry heat, but soon it would turn cold and dangerous. James stood at the edge of the city. Behind him, Madame Yura and a small crowd watched silently.
No one offered help. No one wished him luck.
They believed the desert would claim him before dawn. In his hand was the device, the so-called mini Shai Hulud. It was his only hope. The burning dunes stretched far and wide before him. The sand here was different, glowed faintly as if holding some hidden heat from the core of the planet. Strange shadows moved between the dunes, and distant cries of creatures echoed through the night air. Madame Yora's voice broke the silence. If you return alive, James, you will not just be a guest, you will be one of us. James gave a small nod. He stepped forward, leaving the city behind. Every step felt heavier. The sand seemed to pull at his feet, as if testing him already. Hours passed. The wind grew stronger, whipping sand against his face. James pulled his coat tighter and pressed on. His device hummed softly on his belt. Occasionally he stopped too. Scan the air and collect small droplets of water from the wind. It worked perfectly, pulling moisture from even this dry place. But far away. Glowing eyes watched him. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound, a low hiss, followed by the soft shuffle of something moving close. He turned quickly, shining a small light. Before him, half buried in sand, was a creature. It looked like a serpent, long and thin, with scales that shimmered like gold under moonlight. Its head rose slowly. Its eyes locked on James. His heart pounded. "Easy," he whispered, backing away. But then, another hissed, time from behind. Another serpent. The legends of Eredra spoke of these guardians. They called them the true children of the Shai Hulud. No one who entered their territory survived. James gripped his device tightly, thinking fast. He crouched, switched the device's mode, and activated its mist function. A fine spray of cool, pure water burst into the air. The serpents froze. Then, slowly, they lowered their heads toward the mist. Their golden scales glowed softer. They drank from the air itself, tasting the clean water James had created. James watched, holding his breath. One serpent slithered closer, but instead of attacking, it rubbed its head gently against his leg. The other followed. James realized something strange. These desert creatures were not enemies. They were thirsty. His device, the one mistaken for a holy symbol, could give them what they needed most: water. Carefully, he refilled the mist and sprayed it again. More serpents appeared from the dunes, drawn by the scent of water. James was now surrounded, but not attacked. The serpents formed a circle around him, curling into the sand as if protecting him from the cold desert wind. Hours passed. The desert, once a place of danger, now felt peaceful. By midnight, James sat calmly in the center of the circle. The creatures watched over him, their eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. Back in the city, Madame Yora looked out at the dunes. She shook her head slowly. "Oh, no human could survive this night," she whispered. But far from the city, James was not just surviving. He was being accepted. The desert itself was watching him. It was changing its mind. Asterisk morning light touched the sands, turning the burning dunes into waves of gold. The wind was soft now, and the air smelled clean. James slowly stood up from where he had rested all night. The desert serpents were still around him, their bodies curled in gentle circles, guarding him. He looked at his device, the one Madame Yora called the mini Shai Hulud. The mist function was empty now, all water used. But it had kept him alive, and the creatures. They had accepted him. Far away, near the city gates, the elders and Madame Yora waited. They expected to see only empty sand when they looked across the dunes. "No human survives the night," one elder said coldly. "The desert takes them all," whispered another. But then Madame Yora gasped, her red eyes widening. "There. Look, in the distance, a figure was walking calmly toward them, James. And not just James. Behind him, following in silence, were the golden serpents." The elders froze. The sight before them was something no one had ever seen. The desert guardians. The true children of the Shai Hulud followed a human. Willingly, James walked closer, his face calm but tired. His clothes were torn from the wind and sand, but his eyes were strong. As he reached the city edge, the crowd fell silent. Even the smallest child felt the importance of this moment. The lead elder stepped forward, lowering his silver mask just slightly so James could see his face, a face marked by many years. With skin like cracked stone and eyes dark as night. "You have returned," the elder said simply. James nodded. "Yes. You were not just tested by the desert, the elder continued, his voice soft but heavy with meaning.
Oh yeah.
You were chosen by it. The golden serpent slithered forward, curling around James's feet, but never threatening him. There? Eyes watched the crowd carefully. Madame Yora stepped closer, speaking in a quiet voice full of respect. No warrior has ever walked with the children of Shai Hulud, not even our greatest elders. Yet you, a human stranger, walk among them as one of their own. The crowd slowly bowed their heads. Then something even more surprising happened. One serpent lifted its head high and let out a strange, deep hiss sound that seemed almost like a blessing. The elders knelt. The lead elder spoke again. The desert has made its choice. You, human James, are now desert kin. You are not outsider anymore. You are one of us. James felt a strange warmth in his chest. Just last night they wanted him gone. Now they honored him. Madame Yora raised her eyes to meet his. The room. You rent is yours for as long as you want it, and more. You will be offered a seat at the council. James smiled gently. I only wanted to live here peacefully, he said. The lead elder nodded. And you have done more than that. You have brought peace to our fears. Suddenly, a child stepped forward, looking up at James. Show me the mini Shai Hulud. The child whispered. James crouched and showed the small water device. The child touched it carefully, then smiled. To us, this was once just a legend. But now, it is real, the child said. James laughed quietly. He had come here as a stranger with nothing but a simple human device. Now that same tool had changed everything. Around him, the crowd slowly gathered, no longer afraid, but curious and respectful. They wanted to learn, wanted to understand. That night, James sat at a long table in the council hall. Food was served, songs were sung, and every elder bowed their heads toward him. But James knew this was just the beginning. The desert had accepted him. The people had welcomed him. But the desert's mysteries were deep, and somewhere out there more secrets waited. After the feast, when the moons rose again, James couldn't sleep. His mind replayed the night in the burning dunes, the golden serpents, the cold wind, the peaceful silence, and the strange feeling he still carried, as if something in the desert was calling him. Madame Yora visited his small room late that night. She spoke softly, almost in a whisper. James, the elders speak of old stories now, stories they never told before. They say the Shai Hulud device you carry may not just look like a holy symbol, it may truly be connected to this planet. James frowned. Connected? How? She shook her head. No one knows for sure, but they say. Deep under the sand, there is an ancient machine, a machine from before even our time, a machine that once purified the desert itself. That what you carry is a piece of that lost machine. Her words gave James chills. His simple water purifier, just human technology, might not have been so simple here. Could it really match a design from an ancient alien civilization? Madame Yora stepped back. The elders have asked for one more thing. They want you to go to the Valley of Echoes. They believe that place will reveal the truth. James nodded. Slowly. When do I leave? At sunrise, she whispered. But beware. The valley is dangerous. No one has walked it for 100 years. At dawn, James prepared for his journey. He refilled the device's water tank, packed simple food, and wrapped his coat tightly. The desert wind was rising again. As he left the city gates, a small crowd watched him, but this time, their faces showed respect, not fear. Even the golden serpents followed for a short distance, stopping only when he reached the edge of the distant valley. The Valley of Echoes was different from the burning dunes. Here, massive stone pillars rose from the sand, cracked and ancient. Strange symbols were carved into every surface. Every step James took, his footsteps echoed back at him, louder than expected, as if the valley itself was alive. His device hummed softly at his belt. The air felt thick, like an invisible energy, surrounded him. Then suddenly his device beeped. It had never done that before. He looked down. The small screen flashed a message he had never seen. Signal detected. Origin, Eredra. James froze. His water purifier device from Earth was picking up a signal from this alien world. The device beeped again and began to pull him toward a crack between two giant stone pillars. Without thinking, James followed. The path led him down into a cave, cool and dark. Strange blue lights glowed along the walls, as if someone or something had left a trail for him long ago. At the end of the cave, half buried in sand, was something amazing. A machine, huge, ancient, and covered in symbols that looked almost exactly like the markings on his water purifier. It looked like a giant version of his device, a purifier, the size of a small house. James slowly stepped closer. His small device beeped faster, brighter. Then, without warning, the ancient machine came alive. Soft blue lights pulsed. A deep hum filled the air, and suddenly a voice spoke, not in alien language, but in perfect English. "Welcome, human. You have returned what was lost." James's breath caught. How could this ancient alien machine speak English? Then he realized. This wasn't just alien. This machine had been waiting. For someone like him. For a human. Back in the city, Madame Yura felt a sudden shift in the wind. She turned her eyes toward the Valley of Echoes and whispered, "The desert's greatest secret is waking." Asterisk, the cave glowed softly as the ancient machine hummed. James stood still, staring at the huge purifier that seemed to wake up just because he was near. Then, the voice spoke again, smooth, calm, and still in perfect English. "You are the key, the last piece," it said. James stepped closer. Small water purifier beeped louder, and a beam of light scanned him from head to toe. Symbols lit up all over the ancient machine, matching the design of his device. His mind raced. Was this why his purifier looked like the Shai Hulud symbol? Did humans and this alien world share some secret history? Suddenly, a circular panel on the machine's front opened, revealing a hologram. It showed Earth, but not Earth today. An old Earth, covered in deserts and sandstorms. And then, Eridra. The hologram showed ships traveling from Earth to Eridra thousands of years ago. James felt a chill. Long ago, humans had come here, but no one on Earth remembered this. Had this planet once been connected to humans? Why was this history forgotten? The machine spoke again. This purifier was left as a gift, to heal Eridra's desert, to save this world, when the time was right. James felt his heart race. All this time, he thought he was a visitor, an outsider. But humans had been part of Eridra's story all along. The machine's voice grew softer. Your kind never returned. Until now, will you help us again, human? His small water purifier was just a copy of this machine's ancient design. Somehow, humans had once brought water to this desert world. And now, the desert called for help again. He reached forward, placing his purifier against the glowing panel. The machine accepted it instantly. Streams of energy surged through the cave walls. Pipes buried deep under the sand began to rumble. Far above, back in Madame Yura's city, wells that had been dry for generations suddenly filled with water. Fountains burst to life. The crowd gasped. As clear, fresh water poured into the streets, children laughed. Elders wept. The elders looked toward the valley with wide eyes. They understood now. James wasn't just a guest anymore. He was a link to a forgotten promise. Inside the cave, James watched as the machine calmed down. The light dimmed softly. Voice spoke one last time. "Thank you, human. The desert is alive again. Because of you." James stepped back, smiling for the first time since he arrived on Eridra. Outside the cave, the golden serpents waited quietly, their heads bowed in respect. The desert itself seemed peaceful now. James took a deep breath, knowing that when he returned to the city, everything would be different. He was no longer just James from Earth. He was now James Desertkin, and guardian of the water. When James finally walked back into the city, the entire population was waiting for him. But this time, they did not look at him with fear or suspicion. They looked at him with hope, fresh. Water now flowed through small channels along the streets. Fountains that had been dry for centuries sparkled under the twin moons. Children splashed happily, and families gathered to collect the precious water. The elders approached James slowly. The lead elder bowed deeply, something no one had ever seen before. "The desert has spoken," he said, his voice full of respect. "You did not just survive the burning dunes, you gave life back to Airdra." Madame Yora stepped forward, tears in her large red eyes. "You brought back what was lost. For generations, we believed the desert only took, but you showed us that it could give." James smiled gently. He looked down at his small device, now silent but still glowing faintly. To him it had always been just a simple water purifier, but now it was a symbol of an ancient connection, one that had been forgotten by both humans and Eridrans. The golden serpents appeared at the edge of the crowd, sliding gracefully between the people. No one feared them anymore. The creatures circled James one last time, then slowly returned to the desert. Their heads bowed in silent farewell. A young alien child tugged on James's sleeve. "Are you staying?" the child asked softly. James crouched down to meet the child's gaze. "Yes," he said simply. "This is my home now." The elders made their decision right there. They offered James a place on the High Council, not as an outsider, but as Desertkin, a title that had not been given in many lifetimes. From that day forward, James became the bridge between two worlds, aliens and humans, water and desert, past and future, all connected through one person who had arrived as a stranger and stayed as family. In the weeks that followed, James worked side by side with Madame Yora and the elders. They repaired ancient machines hidden under the sand, restored old wells, and planted new life across the dunes. The Valley of Echoes became a sacred place again, not a place of fear, but of healing. And whenever someone asked about the legend, they always began the same way. Long ago, a human arrived with a mini Shai Hulud between his legs. And by the time he left the valley, he had brought the desert back to life. But James never left. He stayed. And every evening, as the twin moons rose, he walked the quiet streets with a smile. Watching water flow where sand once ruled, he had become part of Eridra's story forever.